Jake Walker had seen some wild price tags in his Air Force career, but this one still made his jaw hang a little. He stood on the flight line at Eglin, hands on his hips, staring at the F-35 like it had just totaled his truck and then sent him the bill. The jet looked mean as hell, no doubt about it. Sleek angles, matte gray skin that seemed to drink in the sunlight, helmet sitting on the cart like something out of a sci-fi movie. But all he could hear was the squadron commander's briefing from last week. Each of these birds, fully loaded, is running us north of 80 million, folks. Don't bend it. $80 million for one jet. Yo, Walker, you gonna salute it or marry it? Lopez called, slinging his helmet bag over his shoulder as he walked up. You've been staring at that thing for 5 minutes, bro. Jake snorted. Just thinking about how many student loans this thing could pay off, man. Whole country would be debt-free. Lopez laughed. Yeah, well, it better be worth it. That's the point, right? That was the question everybody kept asking. Congress, the talking heads on cable news, even the crusty old retired chief who lived next to Jake's parents in Ohio. Is the F-35 worth the cost? Jake wasn't sure yet. He'd flown F-16s for 8 years. The Viper was loud, fast, and unapologetically simple. Strap it on, light the burner, pointy end forward, and go make bad guys regret their life choices. It was the muscle car of fighter jets, cheapish, relatively speaking, and built to throw down. The F-35? This thing was a luxury electric supercar with more software than a small tech company. He walked closer, running his fingers along the intake. The crew chief, Staff Sergeant Daniels, side-eyed him. Careful, sir. Touch is $20, sitting is $100. Breaking it is your career, she said, deadpan. Jake grinned. Relax, Sergeant. I'm just saying hello. This jet and I are going to be spending some quality time together. Oh, I know, Daniels said. And I'm the one who has to keep her from throwing a tantrum every time the software updates. So, buy me a coffee sometime. Jake laughed, but her tone stuck with him. This jet wasn't just expensive to buy. It was expensive to keep happy. Maintenance hours, spare parts, software patches, all of it stacking up. He remembered the briefing slide. Life cycle cost for the program. Over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. With A.T. Walking back toward the squadron building, he passed a cluster of junior airmen sitting in the shade, crushing energy drinks and scrolling their phones. One of them, a wiry kid from Texas, looked up. Hey, sir, that the new jet you're flying? He asked. Yeah, Jake said. That's the F-35A, our shiny new toy. The kid whistled. Thing looks sick, no lie. My cousin back home keeps sending me TikToks about how it's a failed project and waste of taxpayer dollars, though. He made finger quotes as he talked. Internet says it can't even dogfight. Jake smirked. The internet also thinks the earth is flat and Mountain Dew lowers your IQ. Okay, but for real, the airman pushed. Is it actually that good? I mean, for the price of one of those, couldn't we just get like a bunch of older jets that still work? Jake didn't have a good answer yet. He had the talking points. 5th gen stealth, sensor fusion, network battle space, blah blah. The kind of stuff that sounded impressive in PowerPoints. But he hadn't taken it into a real fight. All he had was sims, training sorties, and a lot of hype. Tell you what, he said finally. Ask me again in a year. The airman grinned. Bet. Inside the squadron, the hallway smelled like burnt coffee and aviation fuel, Jake's 2 favorite colognes. Today's schedule was taped up outside ops. He found his call sign, Wrecker, earned the hard way in a Viper BFM sortie, and traced his finger to the right. 0800 SIM, A2A package, red threat, contested environment. No actual flying this morning. Just the SIM. But with this jet, the SIM was where the real mind-blowing stuff happened. Lopez came up behind him. You ready, Wrecker? Yeah, Jake said. Show me what the $1 trillion jet can do. Lopez clapped him on the shoulder. Careful, man. You might end up liking it. Jake rolled his eyes, but couldn't deny the tiny spark of excitement. The F-35 might be stupid expensive. It might be a logistical nightmare. It might be a political punching bag. But every time he pulled that custom-fit helmet on and the world turned into a glowing, data-rich overlay, he felt like he'd time-traveled 10 years into the future. Still, the question echoed in his brain as they walked toward the sim building. Is this thing really worth what we're paying for it? Or did we just buy ourselves the world's fanciest money pit? The simulator room looked like something out of a NASA movie. Dim lights, rows of consoles, giant screens on the walls showing mission maps and comms windows. But the star of the show sat in the middle, the F-35 sim pit, open canopy, waiting like a roller coaster that only a handful of people on Earth got to ride. Helmet first, the sim tech said, handing Jake the $400,000 piece of gear like it was made of glass. You know the drill. Jake slid the helmet on, feeling the snug seal around his head. This wasn't some off-the-shelf biker helmet. This thing was custom fit to his skull with lasers and weird foam goo, and it did everything short of making coffee. Night vision, infrared, synthetic vision, all projected right onto the visor. He settled into the seat, grabbed the throttle, and stick. The canopy on the sim didn't actually close, but when the system booted up, Jake's world shrank to the glowing bird's-eye view around him. No cockpit frame, no instrument clutter, just the data. Friendlies in blue, hostiles in red. Surface-to-air missile sites like angry little triangles. Lopez's voice crackled through the headset. Yo, Wrecker, you seeing all this? Yeah, Jake said. This is insane. Welcome to the future, my dude. The scenario, deep strike into contested airspace. Multiple hostile fighters, long-range SAMs, jammers, the whole 9 yards. In the F-16, a mission like this would have been a full-up package. Dozens of jets, dedicated wild weasel suppression, AWACS overhead, a tanker party just to make it happen. In the sim, it was just him and Lopez. AWACS checked them in. The sim tech cranked the threat level up. Red air spiked on the display, pushing toward them like sharks smelling blood. Except the sharks didn't know they were there. Jake watched their vectors like he was cheating with wall hacks in a video game. All right, Lopez said. Let's see if the fanboys are right. They split formation, silent, keeping emissions low. The F-35 sensors quietly drank in the battle space, fusing radar data, electronic support, IR, and God knows what else into a picture so clean Jake could practically feel his brain relaxing. A red fighter group drifted into range. The fire solution cues popped up like little green invitations. Magnum, Jake called as he loosed simulated missiles beyond visual range. The enemy jets never even knew they were being hunted until it was too late. One by one, the red icons blinked out. Bruh, Lopez said, this is kinda rude. We're not even giving them a chance. I'm not here to be fair, Jake replied. I'm here to win. They punched through the degraded fighter screen and pushed toward the target, threading the needle between SAM envelopes like it was a maze he could see from space. The jet handled all the math. He just drove. For all the talk about dogfights and turning radius, this was the real game. Kill them before they ever know you're nearby. Don't get in a knife fight when you can win with a sniper rifle from 2 miles away. They hit the target, dumped their simulated payload, then ghosted back out, invisibly slipping between threats. A few SAMs took blind stabs, but never got solid lock. By the time the hostile network realized something was wrong, Jake and Lopez were already feet wet, heading home. Mission complete. 0 losses. The sim faded. The helmet display went dark. The tech helped him pull it off, and the real world felt low-res. Lopez looked over, eyebrows raised. So? Still missing the Viper, old man? Jake hesitated, then shook his head. This thing is legit. Like, I get it now. At least part of it. Right? Lopez grinned. Feels like cheating. You remember when we had to manually sort tracks in the Viper? Now the jet's like, hey bro, here's everything trying to kill you, color-coded. Jake laughed. Yeah, it's wild. But then, as he was unstrapping, he caught sight of Daniels through the glass window in the hallway, pushing a cart stacked with what looked like server racks toward the hangar. He walked out and intercepted her. You setting up for a LAN party, or what? She snorted. I wish. Nah, this is for the next software patch. Jet's throwing up error codes again. The Alice system's being extra dumb today. Alice was the logistics software backbone that was supposed to make maintaining the F-35 smooth and efficient. Instead, half the time it acted like a moody teenager. How bad, he asked. Let's just say, Daniels replied. Every time this thing updates, we lose like 3 hours of our lives, and some new gremlin pops up. Parts get flagged, jets get grounded, everyone loses their minds. But hey, at least we've got the most advanced fighter in the world, right? She rolled her eyes. Jake knew the maintenance reality wasn't as shiny as the sim. High-tech systems meant high-tech ways to break, and high-tech ways to fix, which usually cost a metric ton of money and time. So what? You not a fan? He asked. She shrugged. Look, sir, I get that it's awesome in combat, okay? We all watch the videos. But every time Congress cuts our budget and then sends us this high-maintenance diva, it's like buying a Lumbo and then complaining that oil changes cost too much. The Air Force signed up for this, but we're the ones pulling extra shifts to keep her flight ready. He couldn't argue. On the pilot side, the F-35 was damn near magic. On the crew chief's side, it was a headache with wings. As Daniels pushed the cart away, Jake leaned back against the wall, helmet bag dangling from his hand. The F-35 was proving itself in sims and exercises. It could sneak, strike, and survive in ways the older jets just couldn't. He couldn't deny that. But the costs were real too. Money, manpower, maintenance hours. It wasn't just a sticker on a brochure. It was Daniel's missing dinner with her kid because the jet decided to throw an error code at 1600 on a Friday. Worth it? He wondered again. From a pure, win the war perspective, the answer felt like a yes. From a we're all taxpayers too angle, yeah, he wasn't totally sold. And he knew the people who really cared about the price tag weren't wearing flight suits. They were wearing suits and ties 1,000 miles away. The conference room smelled like dry erase markers, cold coffee, and impending boredom. Jake sat in the back row with Lopez, both of them trying their hardest not to let their eyes glaze over. Nothing killed a fighter pilot's soul faster than a briefing that involved spreadsheets. Up front, Major Spencer clicked through slides like he was speedrunning a PowerPoint tournament. Rows of graphs, budget allocations, sustainment costs. It all blurred together into a big, gray financial migraine. And as you can see, Spencer said, laser pointer flicking at a graph that looked like a cardiogram having a panic attack. The F-35 program accounts for roughly 25% of the Air Force's total procurement budget for this fiscal year. Jake leaned over to Lopez. Translation, this jet costs more money than God. Lopez snorted. Nah, bro, even God would ask for a payment plan. Spencer continued. Now, I know some of you have heard rumors, media chatter, Congress having opinions, all that. But our job here is to understand how to operate within the program's constraints. Jake whispered. Translation, don't break the jet. Lopez nodded. Or if you do, break it soft. Spencer flipped to the next slide. A big bold title read, F-35 sustainment costs. Where we stand, the room collectively exhaled. Everyone knew this part was going to be rough. As of now, Spencer said, the sustainment cost per flying hour for the F-35A is around $33,000. A few pilots let out low whistles. Jake raised an eyebrow. 33 grand? Per hour? That's like a whole truck. Lopez tapped his phone. Bro, that's 2 trucks. Nice ones. The major paused for dramatic effect. For comparison, the F-16 cost around $20,000 per flying hour in its heyday. Jake leaned back. That lined up with what he remembered. The Viper was a scrappy old workhorse, cheapish to run, simple, reliable, and held together by the willpower of maintainers and bolts older than some lieutenants. But the F-35 wasn't built the same way. It was less a jet and more a flying computer with missiles. Spencer clicked again, revealing a slide titled, Why It Costs So Much. Under it were bullet points. Low observable coatings, high-density sensors, software complexity, spare part logistics, engine maintenance, supply chain bottlenecks. Jake muttered. That's just a fancy way of saying, because it's bougie. Lopez nodded. The jet is high maintenance, bro. Like dating someone who wants organic smoothies at 3 a.m. Jake cracked up. Spencer shot them a look. Captains. Something funny. No, sir, they said in practiced unison. Spencer went on. This aircraft gives us unmatched capabilities, but those come with sustainment burdens. The software suite alone includes over 8 million lines of code. 8 million. Jake whispered. Bro, that's not software. That's a novel. A long novel, Lopez said. Like War and Peace, but for nerds. Spencer kept clicking. F-35 advantages: stealth, survivability, sensor fusion, multi-role capability, interoperability with NATO partners, future upgrade paths. Jake cocked his head. You know, this look real nice on a recruiting brochure. Lopez gave a knowing nod. Yeah, we're broke, but check out this sexy jet. A few pilots around them chuckled quietly. Spencer took a sip of his coffee and pointed the laser at another chart. The big question Congress keeps asking, what you've probably seen online, is whether the cost justifies the capability. Jake perked up. Finally, the part he cared about. This aircraft isn't cheap, Spencer said, and the sustainment system still has growing pains. But in real-world exercises, the F-35 has been achieving kill ratios as high as 20-1. Jake felt his eyebrows rise. He'd heard rumors of numbers like that. Aggressors complaining. Sim results that looked like video game hacks. The jet was obnoxiously good at staying alive and killing whatever tried to get in its way. During Red Flag last year, Spencer continued, the F-35s took out enemy SAM sites, eliminated opposing fighters, and enabled fourth-gen jets to perform missions they wouldn't have survived otherwise. Jake leaned closer to Lopez. Yeah, see, that's the part people don't get. This thing doesn't just fight, it changes the whole game. Lopez nodded. Yep, makes the old jets smarter just by being there. The major went on. You can think of the F-35 as the quarterback on the field. It's not just another player. It makes the entire team better. Jake smirked. Except this quarterback costs more than the stadium. Lopez whispered, and needs a spa day every time it gets tackled. Spencer wrapped up. Bottom line, the cost debate isn't going away. Congress will keep poking. Taxpayers will keep asking questions. But from a mission standpoint, the F-35 gives us access, survivability, and lethality we've never had before. Jake felt himself nodding despite the mountain of dollar signs in his head. As the briefing ended and everyone filed out, Jake and Lopez hung back, stretching their legs. You buy any of that? Lopez asked. Jake shrugged. The kill ratios? Yeah. The maintenance headaches? Also yeah. So what's your verdict so far? He thought about the sim, the invisible entry, the effortless awareness, the way red aircraft icons disappeared like someone was deleting them from existence. Then he thought about Daniels fighting with error codes at 1700 on a Friday. It's like this, Jake said. The F-35 is the best jet we've ever built, but it's also the most expensive pain in the ass we've ever babysat. Lopez smirked. Sounds accurate. Jake shoved his hands in his pockets. Still not sure if it's worth what we're paying. But I know this. If I gotta go into the nastiest airspace in the world, I'm picking the F-35 every time. Lopez smacked his shoulder. Yeah, same here, man. They walked out into the Florida sun, heat smacking them like a brick. Ground crews were already swarming around a fresh jet on the ramp, loading panels, running diagnostics. Jake stared at it. Beautiful. Deadly. Expensive enough to make accountants cry. And somewhere between all that, he felt the question echo again. Is it worth it? Maybe. Maybe not. But the story wasn't finished yet. And tomorrow, he'd take the real jet up for the first time. That's when he'd get his real answer. Jake stood on the flight line at 0600, the sky still bruised purple with early dawn. Florida humidity already wrapped around him like a warm, wet towel. He could taste jet fuel in the air, the breakfast of champions. Today wasn't a sim. Today wasn't training slides or talking points or PowerPoint propaganda. Today was his first real F-35 flight. Lopez strolled up beside him, sipping something from a can that looked like it had enough caffeine to restart a dead car battery. Bro, you look nervous, he said with a grin. You about to ask the jet to prom or something? Jake smirked. If I am, she better say yes. Cost me enough. Lopez tapped the side of the jet with his knuckle. Just remember, this thing's smarter than both of us combined. Treat her nice. Daniels, the crew chief, walked up with a tablet tucked under her arm, her hair tied back, already sweaty. All right, sir, she said, flipping through diagnostics. Jet's green across the board, sorta. One caution light on the /AQ whatever sensor, but it's a false alarm. System's been funky since the update. Jake raised an eyebrow. That's comforting. She scoffed. Sir, if you wanted comforting, you should have joined Space Force. Y'all fighter guys just like stress. Lopez cackled. She's got you there, Wrecker. Jake shook his head. All right, Daniels. Treat her like she's your own. Daniels shot back instantly. If she were mine, I'd put her in a garage, charge people $2 to look at her, and retire. Jake laughed so hard he choked. Then it was time. Helmet on. Check's done. He climbed the ladder and dropped into the cockpit like he'd been doing it since birth, though his heart was thumping like he'd just sprinted a mile. The seat hugged him, custom fit. The helmet synced. The canopy closed with that high-tech shhhh thunk that felt like stepping into another world. The screens lit up. His whole field of vision filled with floating cues, symbology, flight data, threat indicators, all perfectly arranged. He didn't feel like he was sitting in a jet. He felt like he was the jet. Control tower crackled in. Lightning 2-1, you are cleared for engine start. Jake flipped the switch. The jet hummed to life with a smooth, electric purr, none of the coughing, rattling startup drama the F-16 used to have. The F-35 sounded like money. Clean, calm, expensive money. Damn, Jake whispered. You're quiet. Even the engine startup felt smug. He taxied out slowly. Taxiing an F-16 felt like balancing on a drunk shopping cart. This felt like gliding a luxury sedan, smooth, obedient, graceful. Lightning 2-1, cleared for takeoff, runway 09. Jake rolled to a stop at the runway threshold. Sunlight spilled across the nose of the jet, turning the matte, gray skin orange. He took a breath, shoved the throttle forward. The jet kicked him in the spine like a mule on espresso. Smooth but violent. Controlled but raw. He roared down the runway and pulled back, and the jet didn't climb. It levitated. The ground dropped away. The sky swallowed him. And Jake Walker laughed out loud in his helmet. Holy hell, he yelled to nobody. Okay, I see you. Lopez's voice came through the radio, crackling with amusement. Enjoying the billion-dollar broomstick, wrecker? Jake leveled off, the jet handling like it had been waiting its whole life for him to take the controls. Bro, this ain't a broomstick. This is a whole magic carpet. Yeah, Lopez said. Just don't start singing Aladdin songs. Jake climbed, feeling the power under him like a living thing. The F-35 didn't fight him. It anticipated him. The control surfaces whispered. The engine pushed like it had infinite room to run. He banked left, rolling into a smooth arc, the whole world tilting effortlessly. Sensors lit up. The jet immediately fed him a crystal-clear picture of the battle space. Civilian aircraft, ground radars, military traffic, everything layered in a perfect, glowing geometric landscape. This is unreal, Jake said. Welcome to the show, Lopez replied. They pushed out into the training airspace, a chunk of sky reserved for doing things that would make regular pilots crap their pants. All right, Lopez said. Let's see what she can really do. They ran air-to-air drills. Jake watched enemy tracks pop up from sensors he didn't even remember turning on. The jets sorted the threats, prioritized targets, drew virtual firing cues like it was painting a laser pointer on a whiteboard. At one point, Jake muttered, "Are you doing all this for me?" The jet hummed. The display shifted as if to say, obviously, bro. He squeezed the trigger for simulated shots. 1, 2, 3 red icons blinked dead. In the F-16, if Jake wanted a missile shot, he'd have to do half the avionics thinking himself. Radar settings, sorting tracks, managing clutter. The F-35 was like having a tactical butler. Sir, I've arranged your enemies in order of easiest to destroy. Next, they tested agility, high G turns, loops, rolls. Critics always said the F-35 was a fat jet, too slow, couldn't dogfight. Jake rolled into an 8G turn and barked. Who said this thing can't move? Even through the strain, he could feel it. The F-35 wasn't the Viper, but damn, it had claws. Copy that, Lopez said. Feels like a couch that can do cartwheels. Jake pulled vertical, climbing like a rocket. Clouds ripped past. The jet didn't shake. It didn't complain. It just ascended like God had turned off gravity. When they leveled off again, he took a breath and said quietly, "Okay, I get it." "Say it louder," Lopez teased. Jake rolled his eyes. "Fine. This jet is sick." The mission wrapped. They headed back to base. On descent, Jake caught sight of the coastline. Blue water, orange sky, sunlight turning the canopy gold. He'd flown thousands of hours, but this felt new, almost unreal. Lightning 2-1, cleared to land. As he touched down, the jet kissed the runway so softly he barely felt it. Taxiing back in, Daniels was already waiting with her arms folded, like a proud but exhausted parent whose kid had just performed in a school play. Jake popped the canopy, pulled off the helmet, and grinned. "So," Daniels asked, "worth the hype?" Jake opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Yeah," he said finally. Yeah, I think so. Daniel smirked. Told you. She's a diva, but she flies like a dream. Lopez slapped Jake on the back. Congrats, bro. You're officially in the future. Jake hopped down the ladder, boots hitting the concrete. He looked back at the F-35, sleek, stealthy, smug as hell. Expensive? Beyond belief. Complicated? Always. Worth it. After today, he was leaning harder and harder toward yes. But the story still wasn't done. Congress had opinions. Public had questions. And the next mission would be the one that really proved it. Jake never thought his first real combat sortie in the F-35 would come this fast. Usually, deployments were slow burns, weeks of training flights, briefings, familiarization missions, blah blah. But the world had other plans. 3 days after his first flight, their squadron got the call, forward deploy to the Gulf. Tensions flaring. Airspace heating up. Bad actors pushing limits. Jake barely had time to pack a toothbrush before he was boarding a C-17 with his gear, Lopez beside him. Both of them strapped into canvas seats while crew dogs loaded pallets like a NASCAR pit team. Bro, Lopez said over the roar of the engines. You ready to actually see if this jet's worth $1 trillion? Jake smirked. Guess we're about to find out. The flight was long, sweaty, and smelled like a mix of hydraulic fluid, beef jerky, and dudes who'd been awake for 30 hours. Military travel was basically flying in a UPS truck, but uglier. They landed at Al Dafra just as the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky blood orange. The ramp heat smacked Jake like a frying pan, instantly soaking his uniform. Welcome to the desert, baby. The next morning, briefing room. Big screens. Map of contested airspace. Red threat rings like toxic puddles splashed across the display. Colonel Avery pointed with his laser pointer. Intel indicates hostile radar sites here, here, and here. Air defense network is lit up like a Christmas tree. We're not going in to start a war, just to make sure they don't start one with us. Jake exchanged a glance with Lopez. Classic, calm things down with overwhelming firepower mission. Avery continued. Lightning Flight will run a nighttime ISR and suppression run. Eyes on their air defense picture. If they paint you with radar, you're authorized to respond non-kinetically. Translation, spook them, jam them, sneak in, and make them nervous. Jake knew this was the F-35's wheelhouse. But the colonel wasn't done. If they launch anything at you, you are authorized to engage. The room went silent. That part meant it was real. Jake's heart thumped once, hard. Lopez leaned over and muttered, well, hell. Guess we're doing this. Night. Flight line. Hot wind blowing across the tarmac like a hairdryer set to Satan. The F-35s loomed under floodlights, matte skins ghostly under the desert glare. They looked like sharks waiting for a feeding bell. Daniels was there, clipboard in hand, looking like she'd been awake for 40 straight hours. Jet's good, sir, she said, though her tone screamed, please don't break her tonight. Couple of sensors a little moody, but nothing critical. Jake nodded. And you? She snorted. Sir, I run on caffeine, resentment, and Air Force paychecks. I'll survive. He grinned. Fair enough. Helmet on. Strapped in. Systems warming. Night vision mode bloomed across his visor, turning the flight line into a glowing green dreamscape. Lightning 2-1, tower crackled. Cleared for departure. Jake eased throttle forward. The jet rolled smooth, almost silent. At full power, the afterburner kicked like a ghost. Barely visible, barely audible, but brutally effective. They launched into the night like shadows. Once airborne, all external lights went dark. Stealth mode engaged. The desert below turned into a quilt of heat signatures and faint city lights. All right, Wrecker, Lopez said over comms. Let's see if the hype machine can actually keep us alive. Jake smirked. We'll find out when someone tries to kill us, I guess. They pressed deeper, past the friendly airspace boundary. The threat rings appeared on his helmet display. Massive, overlapping circles of hostile radar coverage. In literally any other jet, going in alone would be suicide. In the F-35, it was like sneaking through someone's house while they were wearing a blindfold. Jake whispered, you seeing this? Yeah, Lopez breathed. We're in their living room, and they don't even know the door's open. Sensors fed him everything. Radar frequencies, emitter types, tracking patterns. The jet fused it all into one perfect combat picture. Go split, Jake ordered. They separated, flanking the air defense network. Suddenly a spike flared on his display. Enemy radar. Old school system, but still deadly. It swept their direction like a searchlight. Jake tensed. The F-35 whispered back across his HUD. Tracking. No lock. Remaining undetected. Jake grinned. Attaboy. Another radar lit up. Then another. The whole network started humming awake. They're twitchy tonight, Lopez said. Yeah, Jake replied. Let's give him something to think about. He queued up a non-kinetic jamming burst. The jet synthesized a firing solution instantly. Lightning 2-1, executing poke. He hit the trigger. The jet reached into the electromagnetic spectrum and basically slapped the enemy radar across the face. Instantly, Jake watched their radar signals wobble, distort, and freak out like someone unplugged them and plugged them back in crooked. Lopez cracked up. Dude, they're losing their minds over there. Enemy comms lit up, scrambled, panicked. They were pinging ghosts. Targets that weren't there. Systems flickering. Operators probably yelling in 3 different languages. Jake felt a wave of awe. The F-35 wasn't just stealthy, it was scary. But then, a warning ping. One radar shifted modes. Then another. Then a third. Oh, Lopez muttered. I think they found religion. Jake watched as one sight locked onto a decoy track, one the jet automatically generated to bait them. Seconds later, a missile plume blossomed on his infrared display. Missile launch, he barked. Lopez swore. Bro, they just shot at a ghost. The missile streaked through the sky toward a target that didn't exist, detonating harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Jake exhaled. Okay, they want to play. Cool. He marked the launch site. The jet fed him options. He selected the spiciest non-kinetic one. Returning the favor, Jake muttered. He fired. A directed barrage burst from the F-35, invisible but devastating. The hostile radar site blinked, sputtered, and then, offline. Lopez hooped. Bro, you EMP'd their whole grandma house. Yeah, Jake said, and we're leaving before they fix it. They turned low and fast, ghosting back toward friendly sky. The jet stayed dark, silent, untouchable. By the time enemy air defenses recovered, Lightning Flight was 50 miles away and climbing. The Gulf shimmered beneath them like black glass. Lightning 2-1. Tower called eventually. Welcome home. Jake exhaled slowly. They landed. Taxied. Parked. Daniels jogged up. How'd she do? Jake pulled off his helmet, sweat dripping down his neck, adrenaline still buzzing. She did flawless, he said. Saved our asses. Daniels grinned. Told you. Diva, but reliable. Lopez walked over, slapped Jake's shoulder. Bro, tonight? That was the moment. F-35 is worth every damn dollar. Jake didn't argue. He'd seen older jets fly combat. He'd flown them himself. He knew what a knife fight felt like. Tonight wasn't a knife fight. Tonight was chess. And the F-35 had played like a grandmaster. Still, he could feel the weight of the cost in the back of his mind. The maintenance hours. The budget debates. The taxpayers. Tomorrow he'd have to face the final question again. But tonight? Tonight the F-35 earned its keep. Jake had been awake for 27 hours, but sleep wasn't happening. Not after tonight. Not after that mission. He sat outside the squadron building on a busted metal chair, desert wind blowing hot and slow across the flight line. The base slept quietly, generators humming, occasional distant thump of a cargo ramp dropping somewhere out of sight. Above him, the sky was a dome of stars, sharp and endless. Lopez kicked open the door and walked out with 2 warm water bottles, tossing one to Jake. You good? Lopez asked, plopping down beside him. Jake cracked the bottle. My brain feels like scrambled eggs, but yeah, I'm good. They sat there in silence for a bit, letting the desert night breathe around them. Finally, Lopez said, You know the question's coming tomorrow. Jake sighed. Yeah. Media's gonna freak about the missile launch. Command's gonna want statements. Congress is probably already drafting angry tweets. And someone, somewhere, is gonna ask the big one again. Jake smirked. Is the jet worth the cost? Lopez raised his bottle. Ding, ding, ding. Jake leaned back, boots up on the railing, staring at the dark silhouettes of jets sleeping under floodlights. The F-35s looked like sharks resting in shallow water, dangerous even in stillness. He thought about everything. The sim, the maintenance headaches, the PowerPoints, the flight that felt like flying the future, and the mission tonight, the moment the jets saved their lives without breaking a sweat. Then he thought about Daniel's crew dogs, the ones who kept these machines in the air even when the software demon inside them threw tantrums. "Hey," Lopez said suddenly. "You want to go see her?" Jake shrugged. "Yeah, let's go." They walked the dim path toward the hangars. Most jets were covered up, cooling, crews long gone to their bunks. But their jet, Lightning II-1, was still getting post-flight checks. Daniels was there, as usual, even though it was nearly 0400. She had a flashlight in her mouth, grease on her sleeves, sweat on her neck. She looked like someone who had been through a full day, then someone handed her a whole second day to get through. She spotted them. "You two ain't sleeping?" Jake shrugged. "Could say the same about you." Daniel snorted. "Sir, I haven't slept since 2019. Lopez pointed at the jet. "How's she looking?" Daniels pulled out her tablet. Maintenance logs looked clean. The new sensors held up. No major hiccups. But the diagnostics suite keeps flagging a phantom coolant issue. "We'll figure it out." Jake looked at her. Really looked at her. "You ever think it's too much?" he asked. "Too expensive. Too complicated. Too much." Daniels wiped her forehead with her sleeve. "Sir, everything worth a damn is too much. My kid's too much. My mortgage is too much. My job is too much. This jet. Yeah, she's too much sometimes." She nodded at the F-35. "But she keeps y'all alive. So I'll take too much over not enough any day." Lopez let out a low whistle. "Damn. Put that on a t-shirt." Daniel smirked. "Yeah, well, don't tell PA. They'll make me do a recruitment video." Jake chuckled, but her answer hit hard. Not technical, not political, just true. After Daniels left to grab more tools, Jake and Lopez stood under the nose of the jet, the moonlight turning the skin silvery. "Look at this thing," Lopez said. "Looks like a spaceship." Jake ran a hand along the cold metal. "Feels like one." "You ready to give your verdict?" Lopez asked. Jake didn't answer immediately. He thought about the criticism he'd heard online. Too slow. Too expensive. Too glitchy. Too much software. He thought about the pilots who claimed old jets were better. He thought about Congress members waving charts on TV. He thought about talking heads who'd never stepped foot near a flight line arguing about budgets like they understood what combat felt like. He remembered the missiles streaking across the sky toward the fake track. The jet ghosting through enemy airspace untouched. The night vision display painting the desert in glowing neon. The sensor fusion that let him see the battlefield like a general instead of a grunt. And he remembered one more thing. He remembered thinking, if I were in an F-16 tonight, I'd be dead. He exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I think I'm ready." The next morning, command wanted a hot wash. Big round table, flags on the wall, coffee that tasted like punishment. Wing leadership, intel nerds, maintenance chiefs, everyone who wasn't asleep or dying. Colonel Avery leaned forward. "Walker, you flew the lead jet last night. We need your assessment." Straight up. Everyone turned to him. Jake took a breath. "Sir," he began, "I've flown the F-16 for years. I loved it. Still do. It's a beast. A legend." A few pilots around the table nodded. "But the F-35," Jake continued, "is not just a new jet. It's a new concept of air combat. It's like comparing a flip phone to a smartphone. They both make calls, but only one changes the whole world around it." Avery raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Jake set his hands on the table. "Last night, that jet saw threats I didn't even know existed. It tracked them, prioritized them, built a game plan before I could blink. And when they fired at us, the F-35 didn't panic. It didn't even flinch. It handled the whole engagement like it was playing chess." Lopez chimed in. "Sir, they launched at a decoy the jet created on its own. Then Walker shut down a radar site without firing anything kinetic. They were confused for hours. The intel chief tapped his pen. And you believe that capability justified the program cost?" Jake paused. Every face in the room waited. Finally, he said, "Sir, I think the F-35 is expensive. Really expensive. A pain in the ass sometimes. She needs love, attention, maintenance, and a team of geniuses to keep her happy." He looked around the room. "But if you asked me, right now, today, what jet I'd want to be sitting in when the world goes sideways, it's this one. Every time. Without hesitation." Silence. Jake finished, voice steady. "So yeah, she's worth it." Avery leaned back, expression unreadable, then nodded once. Thank you, Captain. Lopez kicked Jake's boot under the table. Jake fought a grin. Later, walking back to the dorms under the blazing desert sun, Lopez elbowed him. So that's your final answer, huh? Jake smirked. Yeah, I think so. You think Congress will agree? Jake shrugged. Probably not. You think taxpayers will agree? Some will. Some won't. Lopez nodded. So who's the verdict for? Jake looked back at the flight line, where his F-35 sat shimmering in the heat, like something out of the future. It's for the pilots who need it, he said, and the crews who keep it alive, and the people who sleep better at night, because jets like that are out there. Lopez grinned. Damn, that's poetic. Jake laughed. Shut up. They walked on, boots crunching gravel, heat rising. Behind them, Lightning 2-1 sat silent and deadly. Too expensive, too complicated, too advanced, too much, but exactly what the future needed. And Jake, finally, unquestionably, believed it. The F-35 was worth the cost. And now he knew why.